Welcome to another edition of Mastering the Math of Business with Warren Young. Today we're going to be talking about two foundational formulas to making more money with less stress. The first one has to do with the price equation. The second one involves the cost equation. And what you're doing here is you're comparing the year-over-year averages. Do this because the first part of consistently making more money year over year is to earn the right to raise your prices. You earn the right to raise your prices by increasing the value of your products and services. In other words, your products and services exist to solve a problem. And the better you solve that problem, the more value you transfer to the purchaser or the buyer of your product and services, the more opportunity you get to be flexible with your pricing. The other part of this is to continuously work to lower your costs. And so if you're able to lower the costs that you charge for your product and services, in other words, you find a way to get rid of waste, you're able to then increase your margin because you're lowering your costs. And so do this year over year, and you will consistently make more money. You will consistently make more money because you'll be generating superior profits. And it really comes down to paying attention to the elements that is under the responsibility of management and ownership. For example, the more effective you are at getting work, that's generating sales, and then converting those sales, that's doing the work, that's the higher your gross profit. The better you enable your business, those are your overhead costs, result in greater operating income. And then whatever you've got to do to facilitate the business itself, that comes out of operating income, and what's left over is either a cash surplus or a cash deficit. A cash surplus means management is doing what they need to do. A cash deficit is the opposite of that. Something's going wrong and it's costing the business more money than it should. So let's look at this from a narrative perspective. So you've got a business that has a combination of 10 million in sales, 7.5 million in direct costs, and 2.5 million in gross profit. If they were to raise their average unit price by 5%, that would improve their sales from 10 million to 10.5 million. That's all things being equal, and that would be a improvement from 25% to 29% gross profit. Now consider a cost decrease. If you decrease the cost, they don't have the same amount of effect as far as the gross margin is concerned. Instead of a 25% gross margin, it's now 27%. In other words, that 5% decrease in cost translates into an additional $375,000 in gross profit. But when you add both of them together, in other words, you increase price and you lower cost, now you've got the power of $875,000 more in gross profit coming in on that 10.5 million in sales because of the ability to add more value that earns you a higher price while lowering your cost to deliver your products and services. Appreciate the math now. Within this, this is the math you need to be able to these are the inputs you need to be able to do this math. You need to be able to look at net sales, COGS, and gross profit. You need to know those three. Then you need to be able to get at what your units are. In other words, how much units are you selling, and then set a target for increasing price and reducing costs. That's direct costs in this scenario. The impact is also if you reduce non-operating and overhead costs, but the real driver to making more money is to do it at the unit level. So with that, this is the scenario we just talked about. This is a 5% increase in unit price. That's going to result in $500,000 in more sales with no change in the unit cost. That's what drops through gross profit through to gross profit. You look at it from a direct cost perspective, you see the impact isn't on the sales side. In fact, there's no sales growth, but you're able to convert those sales. So you're going from a unit cost of $375 per unit to $356. That translates into a $375,000 bump in gross profit. And then here's the power of doing all three at once. Doing both of them at once. The point is, when you can identify ways to increase the value of what you do, that's the best lever for making more money. When you can do it for less money, that's the second best lever. And when you do both, you're now compounding it. And that's the secret to making more money. So if you find yourself not making more money this year over last, then it's time to stop and appreciate what's going on. In fact, the failure to apply these two fundamental formulas is the reason why business owners carry around way too much stress. So the question comes down to, what can you do with your management team to position yourself to charge the right price and to be able to do it at the right cost? And then once you can get to that point, then it's about continuously refining the value you create and the cost that it takes to create that value. If you're struggling and you want an appreciation of what's holding you back from accomplishing more, then go to businessfitnesscheck.com. Businessfitnesscheck.com is a business health assessment. It's an effective tool for assessing what's working well in your business and where you're getting stuck. Take this fitness test, and you'll get a free, in other words, a no-cost report back to you that tells you what your risk profile is, and it gives you some tips for what you can do better to make more money. Again, these are the formulas. In other words, if the current year's unit price is greater than the previous year's unit price, that's positive. If it's less, then that puts a lot of pressure on your costs. In other words, if you're decreasing your price to get your sales, you're putting a lot of pressure on your profits. And then you look over at the cost equation, and that's a function of your unit cost divided by your unit sales. In other words, what are you spending to be able to generate those costs? If it's more this year than it was last year, that's a recipe for making less money. And it's your management team that really holds the key to this. If they can master these equations, then you'll be in this zone here. And this is the zone where cash surpluses get created. It's because management is successful in converting the assets of the business into profits. That's what we're about here at Business CPR. We do these Mastering the Math videos to help people appreciate some of the most fundamental numbers that are flowing through your business that you can calculate and zero in on what's working and where you're getting stuck. If you like this video, likes are always appreciated. If you have questions, don't hesitate to pop them in and ask us. We'll respond right away. And then lastly, subscribe, because we have a whole lot more of these types of videos coming at you on a weekly basis, and we look forward to sharing the next in our series with you shortly. Thanks for tuning in. Goodbye.